The risks of driving and talking on cell phones are comparable to the risks of driving legally drunk. So one way to look at cell phone use while driving is to look at the individual level and to look at how it affects someone who's doing this. And that's something you can do very nicely in the simulator. So we can find, for example, that someone who's talking on a cell phone responds slower to the onset of braking signals, about 9% slower than someone who's not talking on a cell phone. Then we basically did this study. We had our students come in, we gave them alcohol, they got drunk, then they were driving in the simulator. And what we found was basically that someone who's talking on a cell phone while driving a car, operating vehicle, or driving our simulator, to be more precise, actually was more likely to get into an accident than even people who were legally drunk. And these were people who were exactly at the limit of 0.08. One of the things we see, of course, with people who are talking on a cell phone is that they actually have an increased following distance because they try to compensate for being distracted. So you are following at a normal distance. I mean, what people do when they're not quite distracted. Of course, I'm talking in the background, that adds. But usually they follow at a larger distance. Will you tell me something about a situation where your life was in danger?
I have a perfect story for that. My friend decided that he was going to speed up to get in front of the semi. We whipped across the lane, got in front of the semi, and it was one of those exit ramps where the speed was a 25-mile-an-hour exit ramp. And so we got we made it through the apex of the turn, and then we spun out. And so if there had been anybody following us, we would have been T-boned because it was right on the far side of the curve. So what has been the reaction since the study came out and was published, either from politicians, AAA, or the cell phone companies?
I think we expect that maybe in the future some politicians will contact us. We heard a little bit about initiatives, but it's very early in the process. So there we haven't heard anything really. Nor did we hear anything from AAA. They seem not to be very interested in this kind of work. But of course, we heard quite a bit from the cell phone industry, especially the kind of trading organization, CTIA, of the cell phone industry, where all the individual providers are basically in this association, and they basically are helping them to develop policies and so on.